She stood alone in her room at night. A small jar of cream rested in her hand. The label promised beauty and confidence. She looked at her face in the mirror. Her skin looked calm and normal. She smiled and gently applied the cream. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, something had already begun to change. Before we continue, my people, don't forget to like this story and subscribe to our channel. Stay close so you never miss the next tale from our village. Years earlier, in a quiet village, a baby girl was born. Her parents had waited many years for a child. The whole village celebrated her arrival. Drums were beaten and prayers were said. But some women noticed her face was different. Her skin looked dark and dry. They whispered among themselves. Her parents had nothing and chose happiness instead. Her parents adored her more than anything. Every morning, her mother would tell her, "You are beautiful, my darling." They dressed her in bright clothes and praised her every small achievement. Inside the house, she felt safe and special. But when she stepped outside, people's stares made her uneasy. Some avoided looking directly at her face. Others whispered quietly among themselves. She began to wonder why she was different, though she didn't fully understand yet. As the years passed, the warmth she once felt from others began to fade. Children no longer ran to greet her with laughter. Mothers whispered warnings when she walked by. The smiles that once lit up the room turned into uneasy glances. Slowly, painfully, she began to notice it herself. There was something about her face that made people step back, something that set her apart. In mirrors, she searched for what was different, tracing the lines of her features again and again, each reflection feeding a growing unease. The realization settled deep inside her, like a shadow creeping across her chest, that the world no longer welcomed her as it once had. Alone in the quiet, she stood before the mirror and rubbed her skin again and again, harder each time, as if force could erase what she saw. Water splashed onto the floor while her hands moved without mercy, chasing a version of beauty she believed was buried beneath pain and effort. Her skin burned, turning raw, but she welcomed the sting, convinced that suffering was the price of becoming acceptable again. She leaned closer to her reflection, eyes hollow, breath shaking, whispering promises to herself that this time it would work. With every harsh scrub, hope and despair tangled together until the mirror showed not beauty reborn, but a girl slowly learning to hurt herself in the name of being seen. At school, the cruelty followed her into every corner. Some classmates mocked her openly, pointing and laughing without shame, while others chose quieter weapons, whispers that spread like poison, glances filled with disgust, smiles that hid ridicule. When she walked into the room, laughter erupted behind her back, sharp and sudden, slicing through her chest deeper than any insult spoken aloud. She lowered her head, pretending not to hear, but every sound burned itself into her memory. Even silence became heavy, loaded with judgment, making her feel exposed and small. By the end of each day, the laughter echoed in her mind, teaching her that words were not always needed to destroy someone. Sometimes, mockery lived in the air itself. Despite all the pain and ridicule she had endured, she poured herself into her work, her studies, her talent, and slowly, quietly, she began to rise. Her grades shone brighter than anyone else's. Her skills caught the attention of teachers, and whispers of her accomplishments started to ripple through the school. Yet, instead of admiration, her success drew sharper eyes and tighter whispers. Classmates who had once mocked her now looked at her with envy, their smiles tinged with resentment. Each award, each recognition seemed to ignite their cruelty rather than earn respect. They whispered behind her back, sabotaged small opportunities, and waited for her to falter. She felt the bitter sting of triumph turning hollow, the world punishing her not for failure, but for daring to shine when everyone had expected her to remain invisible. The breaking point came quietly, wrapped inside a single cruel comment spoken without care. It slipped past her defenses and shattered what little restraint she had left, echoing louder than all the laughter before it. Her chest tightened, breath turning shallow as the world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Every insult she had endured rushed back at once, piling up until she felt crushed under their weight. Desperation flooded her thoughts, dark and frightening, whispering that escape might only come through pain or disappearance. She stood frozen, hands trembling, mind spiraling into places she had never dared to go before, realizing with terror that something inside her had finally cracked and she was standing at the edge of herself. She left the village with a heavy heart but a desperate hope, stepping into the city where faces were strangers and no one knew her story. For the first time in years, she could walk down crowded streets without the weight of judgment pressing down on her. There were no stares, no whispers, no familiar eyes measuring her every move. The city's noise and chaos became a shield, a mask that let her exist without explanation or apology. For the first time, she could breathe freely, move unseen, and imagine a life where she could remake herself, even if only in small, careful ways. The sense of freedom from the city still lingered, a heady relief from years of judgment, but beneath it was a quiet tension. She was alone, truly alone, and the safety of anonymity came with its own uncertainties. Seeking a way to take control of herself, she wandered into a small, polished salon tucked between the bustling streets. Gathering courage, she asked the beauty expert, "Is there something that can help me look different? Better?" The expert smiled gently and led her to a neatly arranged shelf, picking up a small, elegant jar. "This cream," she explained, "is carefully prepared to enhance your natural beauty. Use it with care and it can help your skin, your confidence, and the way the world sees you." She described its ritual, its promise of transformation, and the hope it could bring. Listening intently, the girl felt a spark of possibility. Here was a tool, small but powerful, that might finally let her step out of the shadow of her past. Her dedication to the cream and the careful rituals began to show subtle results at first. The changes did not arrive overnight, but they were real. Day after day, as she followed the instructions with discipline and belief, her skin softened, her face cleared, and a gentle glow replaced the dullness she had carried for years. Strangers in the city began to notice her, not with pity or curiosity, but with admiration. Compliments followed her steps, doors opened more easily, and for the first time in her life, she felt visible in the way she had always longed for. The attention filled a deep emptiness inside her, convincing her that this new version of herself was finally worthy of respect. But that attention slowly reshaped her heart. Confidence hardened into pride, and pride into a quiet hunger to be above others. She began to enjoy being admired, to expect it, to measure her worth by the way heads turned when she passed.
The pain of her past no longer softened her. Instead, it fueled a need to prove that she had risen far beyond those who once laughed at her. What began as healing became a sense of superiority, and she mistook this feeling for strength. When she returned to the village, it was not to make peace with old memories. She walked through familiar paths with a lifted chin, her beauty drawing shocked stares from the same people who had once mocked her. Whispers followed her again, but this time they were filled with envy. She spoke confidently, smiled knowingly, and let her transformation wound those who had wounded her before. Her beauty became a silent message. She had won, and they had been left behind. Curiosity quickly turned into demand. Women asked her secret, elders questioned her change, and admiration fed her pride even further. Wanting to be the source of that power,
She decided to recreate the cream herself. She trusted her memory more than knowledge, ambition more than caution. Ingredients were mixed without understanding, proportions guessed, warnings ignored. She believed that if beauty had raised her once, it would obey her again. At first, nothing seemed wrong, but soon her skin began to burn. The glow faded into harsh patches, the smoothness cracked, and pain replaced confidence. Each attempt to fix it only made it worse. Mirrors became enemies, reflecting a face twisted not just by damage, but by regret. The villagers who had once envied her now stepped away in fear, whispering of consequences and imbalance. In the end, she was left alone with the truth she had avoided for too long. Transformation without humility is fragile, and power taken without understanding always turns inward. Her story remained in the village as a quiet warning that change meant to heal can destroy when driven by pride, and that some lessons only arrive when it is already too late to escape them.